How's it going, everybody? I'm Steve. Welcome back. So, for the longest time, I wanted to rank all 27 films in the James Bond franchise. There's actually like 25 official from Eon and actually 2 unofficial. But this is a character that I've really liked since I was a kid. My dad took me to see Moonraker in 1979 when I was 6, and it kind of really changed my life. The character itself, actually, James Bond started in 1953 from Ian Fleming, the first novel that he wrote. And he did that, and there was actually like a TV series in black and white back in the 50s as well. And the first film was in 1962. So the franchise has been around forever. For 27 from last place, this one's for 1967. It's called Casino Royale. This is actually the first James Bond book. I'm not going to give like the movie directors, because there's so many films here. I don't want this video to go really long, but this one's James Bond is played by David Niven. It has Peter Sellers and Orson Welles. It's a spoof. It's a comedy kind of thing. So at number 26, I have the movie from 1985. It's called A View to a Kill. This movie is actually Roger Moore's last one as James Bond. It has Christopher Walken as the villain. It has a great theme song from Duran Duran. That's really probably the best part of this movie. The most memorable is that Duran Duran is in this. It has I think Roger Moore was like 57 at the time. He's way past his prime to play this character. So it kind of shows in a lot of ways, and even Christopher Walken couldn't save this movie. All right, so at 25 from 1979, I have Moonraker. This is actually Roger Moore's like 4th time playing the character. It's very strange. This movie was they were definitely capitalizing on the space age kind of theme that Star Wars had created in 1977. This one definitely has there's a character called Jaws. It's basically they're ripping off like the Jaws, how popular that was in 1975. That character shows up in 2 films, and this was the second one that he showed up in. So it is very much, if you know what happened at the end of the 1977 film, it said that For Your Eyes Only was going to be the next film, and then because of the popularity of Star Wars, they made it Moonraker. Okay, so at 24 from 1974, I have The Man with the Golden Gun. This is actually Roger Moore's 2nd time playing the character. He really didn't come to his own until really the 3rd film that he starred in. It has Christopher Lee plays the villain in this movie, very strange villain. It has the character called Knick Knack. It's actually played by the same actor that played Tattoo on Fantasy Island. Okay, so at 23 for 1989, I have License to Kill. I mean, some people might have this ranked a little bit higher, but this is actually starring Timothy Dalton. This is actually the second and last time they actually played the character. This actually is the villain is Robert Davi. As Benicio del Toro's in this movie as well. This one, like I said, I think if you have like a bad theme, I think you can kind of, for me, kind of ruin the movie a little bit. As Gladys Knight plays, she actually does a theme song for this movie, and I think it doesn't work. Okay, so at 22 for 1987, I have The Living Daylights. This is actually Timothy Dalton's 1st time playing the character. This one there's a lot of, it's been a while since I've seen this one, but I like this one just slightly better than the second one that Timothy Dalton starred in. But I really like the theme song to this movie. It has a-ha did the theme to it. I think it's kind of memorable. It's probably the most memorable part of the movie, I think. But I remember liking the way this movie looked. Just like the female co-star in this movie is really good. Okay, so at 21 from 2002, I have Die Another Day. This is actually Pierce Brosnan's last time playing the character. It's actually the 4th time he played the character. This one, I really liked Halle Berry in this movie. As Madonna does the theme song to the movie. I like the villains in the movie too. It's very different. It has a lot of CGI in the movie too, and like very strange rear projection in the movie. So, and I think Pierce Brosnan got hurt during the filming of the movie too. Okay, so at number 20 from 2015, I have Spectre. I'm sure a lot of people will be really surprised I don't have Daniel Craig much higher on my list here. He's actually my 2nd favorite James Bond. So a lot of his movies are ranked really high. This one's not so high, but I really liked Christoph Waltz in this movie. I think this movie is really hard the movie that it followed is really hard to follow. I think that's part of the reason why I think I didn't like the Sam Smith theme to this movie either. It's writing on the wall. I think, like I said, if you have a good theme song, you can start the movie off on a good tone. Okay, so at number 19 from 2008, I have Quantum of Solace. Like I said, I have a lot of his other films from Daniel Craig listed much higher than this. This movie just didn't work for me, basically. It's supposed to be like a direct sequel to Casino Royale. I think it may be one of the shortest James Bond films. And I think this is like the first time they ever try to do like a sequel to a James Bond movie. Like the other movies are basically like the continuing adventures of James Bond. And for me, this just it didn't work. I don't totally blame Daniel Craig for this. I think I blame the writing really. Okay, so number 18 for 1999, I had The World Is Not Enough. This one's actually starring Pierce Brosnan. I really liked Robert Carlyle in this movie. He plays a villain. I didn't like Denise Richards in this movie necessarily. I think she's really attractive, but I think her character is really, really miscast for that character. But one thing I really love about this movie is the theme song from Garbage. I think it's probably in my top 10 favorite James Bond themes. It has to be somewhere near there. They've had so many great theme songs. I'd have to really think about how I'd rank their theme songs, but I think that's one really memorable part about this movie. All right, so at 17 for 1973, I have Live and Let Die. This one this is actually Roger Moore's first time playing the character. It has a great theme song from Paul McCartney. That's probably the most memorable part about this movie. Paul McCartney's theme is so great. Yeah, I think Roger Moore really didn't come into his own in the franchise as far as his character until the third one in the franchise for him. That was probably like the ninth or 10th film in the franchise, but I think the next one's really great. So I think he just wasn't used to the character yet. Obviously Roger Moore, he was supposed to play James Bond even before Sean Connery, but he couldn't get out of his contract with the Saint. Okay, so at 17 for 1997, I have Tomorrow Never Dies. This is actually Pierce Brosnan's second time playing the character. This actually has Michelle Yeoh's in this movie, a future Oscar winner. As actually the villain is played by Jonathan Pryce. If you know a lot of the Terry Gilliam films, especially like Brazil, he played in a lot of those movies. So interesting that he plays the villain in this movie. But I think Pierce Brosnan, I think he didn't get the best storylines to work with. I think that's one thing. I think he's a great James Bond. I just don't think he had a lot of material to work with. All right, so number 15 from 1983, I had the movie Octopussy. Not even totally sure if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, but I just did. But this one actually, starring Roger Moore. It's actually the sixth time he's played the character in the 7 movies that he played the character in. This one actually, Maud Adams actually returns. I think it's like the second time she's played a character in the James Bond franchise. I think this may actually be a different character in this one. Let me know in the comments. I think it may be a different character. But actually, this one, the villain is actually played by, supposed to be like a Soviet general. And I think that the actor's name is Steven Berkoff. But I like this movie a lot. I think a lot of people will kind of make fun of this movie. Like I said, the Roger Moore era, it's really campy. Okay, so at 14, I have another one from 1983, the movie Never Say Never Again. This is actually Sean Connery's last time playing the character. So it's like the 7th time he's played the character. And this one's actually a remake of the movie Thunderball, which I think this is basically more faithful to the Thunderball book. So this movie's really strange because I remember seeing this and thinking this wasn't the James Bond that I was used to, because I had seen Roger Moore played in a Moonraker and For Your Eyes Only, and then I saw this guy, and I had never seen. I think I may have seen Time Bandits before this, and seen Sean Connery in that, but didn't realize that he was actually James Bond. So I remember thinking that was really strange. It's like I don't recognize this guy. This isn't James Bond to me. Okay, so at 13 for 1981, I have For Your Eyes Only. This one's the 5th time Roger Moore played the character. Really love the theme song to this movie. Sheena Easton's really great. To me, that's one of the most memorable parts of the movie. It's probably top 10 favorite. It's somewhere in my top 10 favorite James Bond themes. Really like the female lead in this movie. It's Carol Bouquet, and I think it's pronounced Bouquet. But I love this. So I love the way it looks. Like I said, Roger Moore, he did some good James Bond movies, and so this one I have ranked pretty high. All right, so at number 12 for 1971, I have the movie Diamonds Are Forever. This one's Sean Connery came back to play the character. This is actually the 6th time he played the character. This one, like I said, in the 70s, they got definitely way more campy with James Bond. And you can tell with this movie, that's where they kind of started off. But Sean Connery didn't play the character in the last movie before this one, and so I like this a lot. Like I said, it's a funny movie, but it was great to see Sean Connery return in the character. Okay, so at number 11 from 1967, I have You Only Live Twice. This is Sean Connery. It's like I think the 5th time he played the character, and this one's different. I really like what they did with this. They did something really strange. It's something they probably wouldn't do with James Bond now, but they years later they did kind of a similar theme. I think basically what they did with the character in this movie, where you kind of think it has like kind of like a twist in some ways. What they do with Sean Connery, and you think what's happening here? It happens really early in the movie. Okay, so at number 10, this one's going to be really controversial. It's from 2021. Movie's No Time to Die. This one's Daniel Craig's last time he actually played the character. As Remy Malek plays the bad guy in the movie. This one, it really did the unthinkable to James Bond in this movie. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm sure you've heard what happens in this movie. But I think the movie's so great, though, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, the character comes back so often. Okay, so at number 9 from 1965, I have Thunderball. This one's Sean Connery. He has some great gadgets in this movie. If you see like basically the way he's able to kind of move in the movie, it's really great. Like I said, they made a remake of this and with Never Say Never Again years later. But this one, like I said, this one's not as faithful to the book, I think, as Never Say Never Again was. Okay, so number 8 from 1995, I have Goldeneye. Like I said, Pierce Brosnan has one movie in the top 10. This is it. It has Famke Janssen's in the movie. It's really great. I love the Tina Turner theme song to this movie. I think that's probably top 10 for me for James Bond as well. So I definitely had to really sit down and really think about it, how it would rank my top 10 for James Bond themes. I don't know if I can do that on my movie channel or not, but let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. But okay, so number 7 from 2012, I have Skyfall. Love this movie. I think some people don't like it as much because James Bond doesn't have like all the gadgets that he normally has, and he has to really kind of think in order to take on the villain in this movie. But I love the theme song to this, played by Adele. I think it's top 10 theme song for me for James Bond in the franchise. And it's actually, Judi Dench is in this movie. It's actually the last time she plays M. And if you see, later after this one, Ray Fiennes plays the character. So it's very strange to see a female play that character. I think she played the character maybe 7 times, possibly. I think, I may be wrong about that, but I think she's really good. Obviously, Oscar-winning actress. So that, like I said, with the Adele theme, it's really great. Okay, so number 6 from 2006, I have Casino Royale. Obviously, I said they had the other one at 27. This one's much better than that. This one's really more faithful to the book. It's actually the first time Daniel Craig played the character. It has Mads Mikkelsen plays the villain in the movie. It has Ava Green's in the movie too. She's really good. So I love this one. I think it's a great. Chris Cornell does a theme song to the movie. So that helps a lot because I think it's probably a top 10 theme for me as well. So so it's going to push the movie over the top for me. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic movie. Okay, so at number 5 for 1969, I have On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think a lot of people might be surprised this one's so high on my list. It's actually starring George Lazenby. A lot of people, they'll say that he's probably the worst James Bond. I think the stories were really what kind of drives this movie. I think regardless what the actor is, and I think the really quick cutting really helps this movie a lot. As Telly Savalas plays a really great Blofeld in the movie, but he's really great as a villain. As Diana Rigg plays like the co-star in the movie. If you ever saw Game of Thrones, she was on that, and she was also in the Avengers TV series. All right, so number 4 from 1962, I have Dr. No. This is the first time Sean Connery actually played James Bond. I think it's really great. I think probably the third film in the franchise is really the one that he really played the character really well, but I think he did a good job in the first 2. Obviously, there wouldn't be a franchise without Sean Connery. That's why I really like his character so much. I think who knows what would happen if Roger Moore had played the character originally. It's hard to say, really, because it's hard to kind of base on what Roger Moore did with the material that he had to work with in the 70s and the early 80s. Hard to say if he would have done a better job in the 60s, but to me, Sean Connery is my favorite James Bond. Okay, so at number 3 for 1963, I have From Russia with Love. This is actually Sean Connery's second time playing the role, but actually his second film in the franchise as well. As Robert Shaw plays a villain in this movie. He's really great if you know Quint from Jaws. He's in this movie, he plays a villain. A lot of this takes place, at least some of it takes place on a train. That Sean Connery, like I said, he's really starting to come into the role on the second film. Okay, so number 2 for 1977, I have The Spy Who Loved Me. I think a lot of people will be surprised I have Roger Moore so high on my list here. Like I said, he's the first Bond I ever saw. I think that the story is so great in this movie. I think a lot of the action's really great. The theme music to the movie is really great as well. I think this is probably the best material that Roger Moore ever had to work with. So I think Roger Moore was actually a good actor. I don't think he had a lot of great James Bond stories to work with as much. Okay, so at number 1 for 1964, I have Goldfinger. Like I said, Sean Connery, this is the third time he played the role. He really came into his own in this one. Love this one. It's Shirley Bassey does a theme song to this movie. It's so great. I think a lot of people would have this one at number one. Like I said, I have a lot of Sean Connery in my top 10. So to me, I think a lot of people would say Goldfinger is probably the best movie in the James Bond franchise. So I can't argue with that. To me, it's the one that's always left the biggest impression on me. Okay, everybody, I really appreciate you watching this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you like this kind of content. Please put a thumbs up on the video. It's basically a like, if you like this content, if you like James Bond, like this ranking. Even if you don't like the ranking, like I said, please leave in the comments how you'd rank these. Just my opinion. This is not like the official ranking necessarily. Like I said, the theme songs really have a big basis on how I rank these movies. So I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have it that way, but I think these are all really great. Even some of the worst ones are still watchable. I think even like I said, George Lazenby only played the character once, and I think the way that movie was cut together, the way the action was kind of set, and the villain and everything, just what happens at the end of that movie, it's just it's hard for me to really dislike James Bond movies. So, but please, everybody have a great night. Thank you.